Welcome to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to erase the stigma associated with Parkinson's disease while empowering and inspiring those dealing with the affliction to live life to the fullest. The Parkinson's Project aspires to build an engaged, supportive community while examining the journey of living with Parkinson's disease through a positive, empowering perspective. Here is your host of the Parkinson's Project podcast, Tim McNiff.
Hi again, everybody. I am Tim McNiff, and I'd like to welcome you to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to eliminate the stigma associated with the disease and instead to empower and inspire those dealing with the affliction to live life to the fullest. The intent of the Parkinson's Project podcast is to share the stories of the people who are living with PD, share best practices from the medical people who are on the front line working to find a cure, and we'll hear from the advocates, those people who are helping Parkinsonians deal and adapt through diet, exercise, and of course with love, understanding, and unconditional support. We're going to try to keep these episodes to about 20 to 30 minutes, but if we're in the middle of a compelling discussion, we do reserve the right to extend that conversation to a second episode with the intent of delivering tangible, beneficial content to all of you who engage with us, and we encourage that engagement with an ultimate goal of putting ourselves out of business when there is no longer a need to talk about Parkinson's disease. And with that, we'd like to welcome Roxanne Julius to the Parkinson's Project. Roxanne, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tim. I'm excited.
Well, I'm very excited to have you. You were recommended as a potential subject for the podcast to me because of a presentation you had done concerning travel concerns for those who have Parkinson's disease. And my thought was, as we record this, we're one day shy of Thanksgiving. We're heading into the holiday season. And my thought was, if people are not going or if they're not traveling because of their Parkinson's, I'm hoping that they'll hear this podcast and your advice and be inspired to get back in the game. So I would like to start with your background when it comes to PD, because you are a licensed therapist, correct?
Yes, I'm a licensed physical therapist. I have my doctorate in physical therapy that I earned almost 15 years ago now, and I've been primarily treating Parkinson's or people with Parkinson's disease for about that long too. So about close to 15 years now.
So this is a subject that is near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely. People with Parkinson's and their family members definitely hold a special place in my heart.
I love it. Okay, I asked you about your background because you also have a travel agency, and we are going to discuss that, but I just want the people who see this to understand that neither you or I are here to do a commercial for your other business, but we are going to talk about it because the point is we want to point out that you have extensive experience with PD, and that's why you created this presentation, which we're now going to go over, because you have tips to help people navigate a trip or perhaps to help them get over the hurdle of going on a trip if that's something they may have ruled out because of PD. Is that a fair assessment on my part?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think my experience having treated Parkinson's and then also being a travel agent gives me a unique insight to just be able to hopefully share some knowledge, empower individuals to feel like, travel is possible.
So full disclosure, I was just at a luncheon with two of my partners who also are Parkinsonians, and they were both so excited when I told them what we were doing and what we were going to talk about. And they're like, I never thought of that. So this is really something that I'm excited about, and so are the rest of them. So don't let us down, Roxanne.
Okay. Pressure's on.
Pressure's on now. All right. Before we get to the presentation, let's talk about your work as a travel agent and then how you brought those two worlds together and led to this interaction right here. How and why did you decide to become a travel agent?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always loved travel and learning about different places, cultures, food, and the people I'm visiting. And even if that's within our own country, America has a ton of diversity to explore. I really enjoy talking about travel. When I actually have my patients come in, that's often just what I want to hear. Like, have you been? What's the most interesting place you've ever been? And that's just such a fun conversation to get started with people. I want to know everything about it. I want to know where they went, what they loved, what they didn't like, what they ate when they went, the different cultures they experienced. It's something that is so fun to learn about, and it's unique to that person. So that's how I like to, that's where my love for travel comes from. I just find it fascinating. And so when I was in college, I worked for the Walt Disney World Company, and because I'm from Florida, and it was a great part-time job in college during my undergrad. And I've always been a huge fan of Disney, and so it was a dream to come true to work for Disney. And it's where I met my husband, and that's how I ended up in Minnesota, because we both worked at Disney, both at Epcot. So years later, though, I was approached by a former cast member of mine that we worked together, and she had her own agency, and she asked, if I'd be interested in joining. And I thought it was a great opportunity that set me on this path. Now I've been a travel agent for about 5 years, and I really enjoy it. I love helping families and individuals create their own magical memories. So it's been a lot of fun. It's fun to do.
So let's talk about the genesis of the presentation. So you're working there and you're talking about travel experiences with people. Did you know, or did you notice perhaps that people were like, yeah, I don't do that, or I don't travel? Were you sensing that, or what led you to create this presentation?
From my years of working, it's always felt like it's been an obstacle for people, like that there was just too much to handle. There was too much to do, too many barriers. It felt like for a person with Parkinson's to travel. And I just felt like I saw that there's always an opportunity, that it's possible. We can do it. It just takes preparation. It takes planning, but it's in expectation management also to a degree. But I found that this is a possible thing for people with Parkinson's and their loved ones to enjoy and still continue to create those memories. And that's why I created this presentation that I did for the support group.
All right, let's get on to that presentation then. You broke it down into 3 areas, and I'd like to do that again here today, starting with the challenges facing Parkinsonians when it comes to travel. What are those challenges?
There can be several, actually. I mean, the slowness of mobility, that bradykinesia that is inherent to people with Parkinson's, can feel like the day is going to that the challenge of traveling is going to be too much to handle. But really planning early for your travel days, arriving early for when you need to go is a key to making something successful. Medication can also be a challenge when people are traveling. Parkinson individuals really rely on the timeliness of those meds and making sure they're taking it daily and consistently. And so when traveling, I highly recommend for individuals to bring extra medications, about a week's worth extra of medications, keep a laminated copy of those, and include the generic names listed, because if you're traveling overseas, what we may call it here in America might not be the same in France. So just having those typical, like the generic names, is important, and your dosings. Keep your medications in your carry-on and close to you. Always have access to water so you can take your meds when you need to. Again, people with Parkinson's know this, have to take it every X amount of hours, or at a very, and if you get off a little bit, it can kind of impact their mobility. And then, considering if you're going to a place where there's a time zone difference, it's something you may even want to consider changing your medication timing to accommodate where you're going. So those are some things to consider, to talk about with your physician when traveling. Also, when traveling, another sometimes challenge can be small spaces or accessibility in areas. And again, small spaces can sometimes for individuals induce freezing or fascinating of their movement, or it's just difficult to turn or move. So it's important to just with little things, knowing this, if you're traveling on a plane, those those bathrooms are really tiny on a plane. So maybe
Right.
consider, like, going to the bathroom before you get on that plane. And then I think something that doesn't probably get talked about enough, and I'm happy to talk about it, is that even if someone doesn't regularly have issues with incontinence, but may have a sense of urgency frequently, considering adult briefs, to be prepared for the unknown, the delays, the lines, things like that, so that, again, you can feel confident and comfortable in a situation that can arise. So sometimes just being able to anticipate situations and planning accordingly can make travel that much more successful.
It sounds like preparation is crucial.
Yeah, that's probably an underlying theme in this entire talk that we'll have. Yeah, it is. It is. It's good. I mean, if you've traveled, even for yourself, a person without Parkinson's, there's a lot that can go into it. And then adding something else that can impact your mobility and impact other things too. You want to just take those extra steps to make sure it's an enjoyable time and not stressful. Again, proper identification, having that can sometimes be a barrier for international and domestic travel. Just knowing what kind of identification you would need. Is it the real ID versus the non, just a regular license? Is it the passport? What do you need when traveling? And so, of course, for any international travel, you're going to need a passport, an updated passport. And then for domestic travel, you could also use a passport if you have one, but having, right now, you can have just your license, but, getting ready to have the real ID, and moving forward, and just making sure like those things are taken care of when you travel.
And then, of course, these are unique times that we're living in. So they're the added play of COVID and vaccinations.
Yes. And so it's truly such a fluid situation between countries, between even states. So those restrictions regarding COVID are changing all of the time. So the CDC is a great website to learn about like what are travel restrictions, because truly they change. And then when it comes to vaccinations, this is not a pro or anything like that, but basically, if you're traveling internationally for the most part, or if you're wanting to do cruising, most of these they are going to require to be vaccinated.
Just as factual. We're not.
That's just factual. No,
just factual. All right.
Yeah.
Your next area was offering tips to ease travel, and I think you've kind of touched on some of these already. But you listed like a checklist. And which I think is, again, the whole preparation thing. And I like this too. You said pack early, and then you had plan to be comfortable.
Yeah. Yes. So for sure, I mean, that's what we all want, but like some loose fitting clothing, comfortable walking shoes, things where you feel like it's not restrictive in your movement. That's so key to being able to move freely and be able to get up from that chair that can sometimes be difficult, or again, turning in a small space. The last thing you want are tight pants or something. So, just having comfortable shoes. Sensible shoes, definitely. You're not bringing out the high heels this trip.
And then your last point there was have a travel companion. And I think all of us can always use an advocate, another set of eyes and ears, and that's probably across the board, but even more so, I would guess, with somebody who's dealing with PD. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the biggest thing is that sometimes people, or probably not sometimes, frequently, people may not even realize what a person with Parkinson's may look like, how they move, how they even communicate. Sometimes the speech can be slurred. And so if a person who is maybe checking you in, at your hotel, at the airport, may think, is this person intoxicated? Or is this like, you need to have that person, like, if that this person is like, no, this is a person who has Parkinson's. It's helpful to have identification stating that you have Parkinson's. Even like a doctor's note can be helpful, just because of people who might just not be educated about how a person is moving, could assume other things. So having a travel companion as your advocate is so nice, is wonderful. I think some other tips to make it successful, again, when traveling in an airport, is consider using a wheelchair just for even energy conservation. Even if you feel like, I don't need a wheelchair. Like I have a lot of people I know who are like more prideful of that and don't want to use it. But let me tell you, I was just in Salt Lake City, which is a beautiful airport, by the way. But oh my gosh, the walk that I had to take I traveled on Southwest and to the gate to get back to get out of the airport was like a 20-minute walk, and I was like huffing and puffing it was a long walk. Yeah, I was like, did I miss the tram? What happened? And here I'm in good shape. I can do this, but it was a walk. And so you're going to want to take maybe that, take the carrier that'll bring you over there. I mean, save your energy for other things than walking in the airport.
Pick your spots.
Yeah. Absolutely. So definitely I recommend that. Even if someone feels fine, it does fine normally, it's just an added extra, layer of stress. And then really, that was a long walk I had to do in Salt Lake the other day.
You got me thinking back. I remember being there, but it was like the 2002 Olympics, so it's been a while.
Fun!
I remember Denver. Denver is one of those airports that's out in the middle of nowhere, and it seems like it goes on forever as well.
Yes, that is true. I think also just when you get to the airport, requesting an early boarding from the gate agent. Less people, less crowded. You're able to move a little bit easier again once you're on that airplane. So I recommend that. Aisle seats can be useful instead of having like the window seat, an aisle seat, just to be able to get up and across. And then I had another person mention too that maybe even if your travel companion if somebody needed help to stand up after time, and that's what that travel companion for, like sometimes having aisle seats across from each other so that person can like just easily stand up and help you instead of like being in that middle seat next to you. So sometimes having 2 aisle seats is a great option as well.
That's really inside baseball, I'm telling you right now, because you know your stuff, lady.
Yes.
That's really impressive stuff. I never would have thought of that.
Right. Yeah. And of course, nonstop flights. Let's just get there and go. So if it costs a little extra to take that nonstop flight, it's going to be well worth it.
I love it. All right. Your final section, third and final section, great ways to travel, in which you cover, among other things, different modes of transportation, and then special requests. And I think, again, the special request touches on a little bit of what you're talking about with the wheelchair, things like that. I think there are times when, I've never walked a step in a person's shoes who has that, but to try to, just if help is available, or if something is there to help you enjoy the experience, take advantage of it.
It's people's nature to want to help for the most part, I think. And so if someone wants to help you, it's not because you might be looking like you even need it. But somebody's, just wants to be there for you. And let them help you, I'm sure even that person with Parkinson's but before was able to help other people. You allow yourself to take the help for sure. I think a great way to travel, with Parkinson's is cruising. It's an excellent way. There's something fun for the whole family to enjoy, especially if it's going to be like a multi-generational trip. That's a great way if you're traveling, if you're a person with younger onset, and you just want something relaxing, but your kids are super active, and you can be super active as well. I'm not saying that a person with young onset isn't, but at all. But it's just something for everybody. Or if you are like the older grandparent who has Parkinson's, that's also a fun way to travel with your entire family. You get to see them have fun. They get to see you out and about, and it's they're continuing to live their lives. And cruising is a great way to do that. It's it's perfect for the multi-generational trip, or perfect for that respite that a couple may need too. So it's a great option. Trains across the United States or Canada are also very fun ways to travel. Kind of everything's included. That's another great way to travel too.
I was going to ask you about that, because in Minnesota, we sort of, you've got get out of here, go to Milwaukee or to Chicago, and then kind of branch out, from there. We're not quite the prairie outpost that we once were, but where trains come through. But if you go to the East Coast, I mean, trains are literally everywhere. You can go from any major city to any major city.
Yeah, Amtrak is yes, absolutely. And it's a fun way to travel, comfortable, and they're actually quite spacious. They're a lot more spacious than an airplane. Allows for great, easy to walk through the cars, mobility. And so it's a great way to see the United States.
Love it. All right. So what was the reaction to your presentation? And if someone wanted to see it or find out more about it, how might they go about that?
Yeah, it's super easy I have that PDF. I'm happy to email it to somebody if they were interested. So they could email me at Roxanne@dellwoodtravel.com. I can spell that out if needed, but it's just R-O, yeah.
You know what? I have the presentation.
Oh, perfect.
What we'll do is we will put your information right at this part and put that on there so people, and we'll put it on social media also. So, yes. But the reaction from the people, have you had anybody who said, hey?
I think they felt empowered. People felt empowered and super interested in what options were out there for them, and that it wasn't like, oh, this is, now that we have Parkinson's, we can't travel anymore. Or mom's got Parkinson's, they can't do that anymore. That's not the case. It's not the case. And so I think people felt empowered. They liked the options. They liked hearing about the different tips. And so I think people were happy to receive this information.
What about, and people might say, oh my gosh, this is where the commercial starts. Well, tough. This is where the commercial starts.
Oh,
you have a travel agency, you specialize in Disney, but what about maybe planning trips for people, like a cruise for people who have Parkinson's disease? I mean, is that something? We'd like to, in my mind is just to see, because people talk about the stigma that's attached to this, but if you knew other people were going to be doing the whole thing, might you not be more likely to go?
I think it's a great benefit to traveling with like-minded people and having a shared experience. It builds community, it builds camaraderie, it builds awareness. And so, I think it's amazing for people who have Parkinson's to travel together. And I want for people to feel confident in doing that. And so, I'm putting together an Alaskan cruise for people with Parkinson's to sail next year in September of 2022. So more to come on that, but that's what I'm putting together to just really to create a community, to feel empowered, to have fun. But to, I think, again, create that community, create that camaraderie together.
I love that. I think that's a great thing. Okay, the last question I want to ask you is something I've decided to end every interview with, because it has sort of a universal approach. And that question is, if someone has come across this podcast and they're not directly affected by PD or even know someone who is, can they still play a role in helping to eradicate this disease? And if so, how?
The short answer is yes, they can.
Okay.
And I'll say that we are all part of the human connection, and travel can bridge cultural gaps and bring awareness to each other. And that awareness, like your podcast is providing, can foster empathy, which can motivate change and to help others. I'll speak for myself that prior to becoming a physical therapist, that specialized in Parkinson's disease, I didn't have a personal connection. I don't have a family member that was afflicted with this. I didn't have any of that. And after working with people who have Parkinson's, and as you probably even have experienced too now, but they embody the human spirit and their resilience, their determination, their sense of humor, and grace. And they have motivated me to volunteer in different aspects and to donate towards finding a cure. So, yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Roxanne Julius is a licensed physical therapist. She's also the owner of Dellwood Travel. And we are going to put her contact information on our social with this, and we're going to put it up on the screen. We'll edit it over the top so you'll be able to see this even as I'm talking about it. So I'll just ask you one more time. Is that where people could reach you best? Is that Dellwood Travel?
Dellwood Travel. And if you can put my phone number on the contact information too, that's a great way. But my email and phone is the best way.
Perfect. Roxanne, we thank you for joining us, and we want to thank you for all you are doing to help those who are dealing with PD. And my perfect vision would be at some point we'll put you out of business too as a licensed physical therapist, and you can just be a full-time travel agent because we won't have to worry about PD anymore. How about that?
I love it. I'll take it.
You are the best. So I said to you before we began off camera, if we end this whole thing and you don't have a good time, I did something wrong. Did you enjoy the experience?
I had a great time. Thank you, Tim. You are amazing. You did a great job. Thank you so much.
I wasn't fishing for compliments for myself.
No, I know. But really, I was kind of nervous, and so you made this a very pleasurable experience. So thank you.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, when I was made aware of your presentation, I just thought this was great because the thing that, as I'm learning about this, the thing that has sort of stopped me in my tracks is the fact that people have a stigma about it, and I just want to do what I can to get the word out there that you didn't do anything wrong. You know, maybe you got a bad break, but there is still a lot to be had out there. And I really want to see if we can't make some headway with that. So you're doing that and really appreciate that. The Parkinson's Project seeks to be a place where you can come for a range of information about PD and to find support for yourself or perhaps for someone you love. We'd like you to check us out on Facebook at The Parkinson's Project. You can find The Parkinson's Project podcast wherever you find your favorite podcast. Check us out and rate us so we can grow and continue to give support in the ongoing effort to eradicate this affliction. This has been The Parkinson's Project podcast for executive producer Pat Porcia. This is Tim McNiff thanking you for joining us, and we look forward to meeting and working with all of you as we seek to build a supportive, empowering community through The Parkinson's Project.
Thank you for engaging with the Parkinson's Project podcast. Be sure to look for more content on the Parkinson's Project Facebook page, and we'll see you right here on the next edition of the Parkinson's Project podcast.